some seeking adventure, some bound in chains, through battles waged and fought, through victory and pain, by test of their courage, our freedom was gained. In homage to those gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun, we vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high, sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate.
Welcome, brothers, welcome, sisters, welcome to our program On Target. Our brothers and sisters on the internet, in the diaspora, CARICOM, nationals listening to us, welcome to our program. As soon as we start, you can pick up your telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything: politics, religion, socio-economic issues, or any topical issue of the day, and you can introduce your own subject matter. You know, this is important for us. We must always believe that we can participate in the democratic process in our country. Sometimes they say if you don't use it, you will lose it. During the revolution, we have a caller on the line, and caller, welcome.
Yeah, good day, sir. How are you doing?
Welcome, my brother. Welcome.
Now you're the man of great wisdom, eh? I prove that. You said recently, a few days ago, that your opinion is not fact. You said that opinion is not fact. But I would like to ask a question. Is belief fact? Is belief fact? Have a good day.
Yes. Thank you, my brother. The number to call is 4420175, and anybody can call and comment on my caller. You see, sometimes we constantly express our opinions on issues, and it is important for the public to know that opinions is not facts. Some people could establish facts, and they could then put their opinion on the facts. Sometimes journalists listen to news, but they don't report the news. They report their opinion on the news. And people believe things. You have religious belief. Sometimes it's faith-seeking understanding. Sometimes you don't even understand what you believe. You believe it, and then you seek understanding. So you could believe something, and sometimes what you believe is also not a fact, but is your belief. And that is why you respect people's belief. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good day, sir.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
Well, I miss you, but what is that? One dong is good.
One dong is almost, you're still facing the new ball.
You're still getting some of the shine.
Yeah, a lot of shine.
I want to say we had a very successful St. Patrick's West meeting at McDonald's College yesterday evening. Our Prime Minister was there. He was at his best. And I could tell you, no one cannot beat the NNP for a united party, but being the most united party in Grenada, CARICOM and Pidimatic, because the meeting went on all right. Dr. Mitchell, husband and wife, as we say, does have a little differences sometimes. And the leader show leadership. He show he's in command. And we get everything smooth. Everything discussed smooth, and like that is where we have the edge on the other people who used to have infighting and all kind of thing, who want to resign. We don't have that in the NLP. We don't know that. That's the DNA of the other party, not we. NLP is united. And that's why when you're united, you cannot fall. This is why NNP will going to win again, because we are the most organized, I call it a institution. I always want to say, those who jumping up and say about the union win, what a win. The country cannot pay what it have. Imagine you want a man to pay, because you know he's a loving man, to pay what the state don't even have, to pay what is more than our budget. So people who want to jump up could jump up. We just don't have it. We just don't have it. So Mr. Pierre, I tell you, we had a successful meeting, and we will be having our luncheon anytime, as how St. Andrews will be having theirs on Sunday. St. Patrick West will fall in the line and have its luncheon just the same. Very shortly, a date is not yet announced. So I want to thank the people for coming out in the numbers last night and listening to everything and putting everything to rest once and for all. So we will be victorious in next election to come. Thank you.
Yes, scholar, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, it is George Brizan wrote in one of his books, Island of Conflicts, because of the number of conflicts that existed in Grenada. Sometimes I tell people we chastise ourselves too harsh. We have had more political conflicts of a unique nature, perhaps more than any other country in the Caribbean. And Grenada could be used as a template for political research. When you're speaking about politics in the region, Grenada name must come up high on the agenda. From Fedor rebellion and a number of people, when the British overtook the French, a number of Grenadians went to Trinidad because the British was not very tolerant. They make it difficult for those of such French influence. In some places, they took over the Catholic Church and they turned it to the Anglican Church. Then Fedor rebellion, thousands of Grenadians rescued in Trinidad after the execution of some of Fedor generals in the market square. In 1951, the British sent down 2 battleships in Grenada to quell disturbances because Gary was asking for $1 a day. They say it's just a little black boy that gave him trouble. But when situation deteriorate, the British sent down 2 battleships in Grenada to quell issues. Well, that was an overkill. And Grenada's 1974 independence was brimstone on fire. And a simple thing as introducing the St. George's University in Grenada, no one could have thought about the ruckus, the bitterness, the anger that came about it. And imagine the man that was propelling the St. George's University never even went to a secondary school. And the biggest fight came from those who went to secondary school and had tertiary education. The intelligentsia. You see, the enemies of progress in Grenada always want a few in the club. They're very upset and angry when they realize the great mass of people would have education. They never look at the economic importance of having a university in Grenada. Today, the St. George's University, over 20% of the GDP, it contributes and provides the biggest employer. It is the biggest employer after government. So my brother, political stability is paramount. It's a very important thing in Grenada context. And the only two leaders that was able to master some level of political stability in the country is Eric Matthew Gary and Keith Mitchell. And in only these two periods, you had the most growth and most initiative. I know people like me to call Bishop. Bishop was not able to create unity. He created wars to this country. And more, we see the illegality of the revolution. But it is important in politics for political stability. All Grenadians are good people, loving people, genuine people, and bright people. So that is not the issue. It's the ability to unite. It is the ability to have a common philosophy. It is the ability to respect one another. It's the ability to understand your main target group. And it's the ability to respect and work for the people of the lower socio-economic strata. When the GNP introduced the Masanto or the torch as a symbol, the people who come from the lower economic strata, they bawled for murder. They thought the symbol represented more injustice. You see, the GNP never take them in consideration. Then they bring the broom, and they say, well, the broom was to sweep them away. You see, the symbol, Gary had the star. Something to worth achieving for, to strive for, to hope for. And my brother, this is one of the biggest issues among the political groups. The political groups must convince Grenadians that if elected, they could survive one term without cannibalizing, without breaking up like a creeks, without fighting one another, without expelling one another from the party. And I always have to make mention, because in a democratic process, in a democratic system, you need tolerant leaders. And I always say Keith Mitchell, Gregory Bowen, and Nazim Buck is three of the most tolerant politicians that have come across in Grenada. You see the amount of criticism, some of them unfairly so, that went to these three people. But they took it with a pinch of salt. They were very tolerant, and they continue to show their humility to the people of this country. So that is important. My brother, never fault the trade union. The trade union have a right to rejoice. The trade union have a right to celebrate. They have won a great victory. When the revolution introduced the Pension Disqualification Act, they might have had every good intention, but a whole barrage of lawyers, they show no respect for the law. Remember, they overthrow a legitimate government, a government that won election 9-6. They overthrew the government, and they took power. And they thought perhaps they would have been like Cuba or Russia. And when the revolution failed, the lawyers that came on board showed no respect for the law. They let the politics overwhelm them rather than the law. So today in our society, the trade union is correct to praise and applaud and celebrate the victory. People have to understand the purpose of the trade union is to seek the interests of the workers. The trade union don't have to care whether government is productive or not. Trade union don't have to care about that. The trade union don't have to care about other interest groups in the country. Their main objective is to seek the interests of the workers. We have something we say that government money does take long, but it show. So whether government is productive or not is not the trade union business. The government cannot pass tax specifically and selecting trade union members. When the government passes a tax, it affects everybody. So the trade union don't have to care about the economic situation. There is a powerful group. Any day, the trade union get a good orator among the ranks, they could shut down the government. Any day. Particularly if the government weak. As I said before, this government is strong enough to ignore any fallouts as a result of the pension constitution debacle. The government should seek international assistance to solve the problem once and for all. This problem some people perhaps does not envisage that could go on for the next 40 or 50 years. Somebody that joined the public service now is qualified under the 1958 laws. Somebody that joined the public service today have to get the same benefits as those before. So that means if you join the service today and you retire 40 years after. So my tears is for government to come, not this government. This government have enough experience and they're long enough to able to demolay in the first instance. The problem will be later down the line as interest incur on $1 billion. When you have $1 billion debt and you have 6 or 7% interest on it in a poor country, and you have a law on your hand that you can't get rid of, and you have a people that would not change the constitution, then that is a challenge for new politicians. This is why I like to examine the new individuals who come to politics and see their ability to work in a team. That is very important, you know. If a new politician have the ability to play team game, some of them afraid to even have a family. If a man afraid to have a family, how could he play team game? It's a hard team game to maintain your wife and children, you know. A lot of people are spell stone, break up, call the police. So if you don't even have practice because you're afraid to have a good family and work with your family, it is difficult to work in a political party. But you don't have to believe me. Look around and watch the potentials and see most of them that cannot keep a family together, they would not be able to work together in political unison. Today is the Thursday of the 5th week of Lent, and we are approaching Passion Week. And it's always important to remember one of the 3 main pillars of Lent is to pray, to fast, and to give alms. And I always say when you pray, it's an expression that you love God. Some people go to church because they're afraid of hell. But they say you shouldn't bother about fearing hell. You should go because of the love of God. When you fast, it's because you love yourself. And when you give alms, it's because you love others. Every time we talk about give alms, we talk about food. Some Grenadians too fat. They're eating too much of high carbohydrate food. Macaroni, rice, carbohydrates, thin stuff, and solo. So sometimes We have to change our attitude to our neighbors and sometimes explain the economic realities. So maybe for economists, speak about the pension disqualification act and the constitution and its economic impact. That too might help our community grow. If those who are involved speak about investment and help to motivate our people and not to encourage our people to be that negative, that might also be considered as giving alms. You don't have to write a book. You don't have to go and help the people in St. George's. You could start by helping your neighbors in Ticolo. You could start by supporting them. We have too much of negative individuals in our society. And you too could give me a call. The number to call is 442-0175. You know, somebody said, listen, enjoying as usual from SGU. It's difficult to speak in this country and not speak about the number one employer after the government of Grenada. The SGU is the number one employer after the government of Grenada and contribute over 20% to the GDP. We must know that. Our people must know that. And when Grenadians have an opportunity to go to SGU and get almost 90% of the cost of getting education off, when you come out in SGU, government must put you on a bond for 20 years. For 20 years, put you on a bond or blacklist you. You're supposed to come back and help your community. Just by living in the community and participating in the activities of the community, even if you just go and be a spectator, helps the community grow. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
Yeah. I've been listening to persons making comments, sir, about we win already and we win already and stuff like that. But in the political arena, you don't know we win until the votes are concrete. So I want to remind people that the task is at hand. Both sides of the aisle. Stop jumping up and saying we win already. My advice to people, because politics is about people and inclusion, right? And I've seen some of the candidates, they ain't ready yet. And they make people like me, who ready? I'm ready. I am ready. But I'm not ready for a certain candidate because they was not seeking my interest, my indulgence in the time of need. No, I'm not talking about want. I'm speaking about need. So, my dear people, we're going to vote this election for country, not individual and party. I love Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martin. Have a blessed day, sir.
Yes, my brother, thank you. And it's a very important advice to politicians. Politicians always have to do the work and not be overconfident and complacent. Sometimes it's important to have confidence. But if you say you win already, some people might say, well, it don't make sense of getting up in this morning and go and vote because you win already. So people have to go out and do the work. Complacency is one of the worst things in politics. And no government in Grenada, in my opinion, have lost their seat. No government has lost power because they did not work. They lose because they did not do the politics. That is why Forbes Bonham say the incumbent have no right to lose. And I agree with it. Some people win in a constituency and somebody reports you hearing why their people are complaining. It's not because people want something from them. Sometimes people feel they're not communicating. And this is the politics. People want to know that you continue to seek their interests. I tell you, once a woman in the community She says she's voting for 2 young men in the community. She said if she have to vote, that is only the 2 people she's voting for. And when they quiz her, she said that's the only 2 young men that has called her miss and have respect for her. Everybody calling her Tilaita, Tilaita, Tilaita. You drinking rum, Tilaita. But she said these 2 young men always treat her with respect. I had a discussion with a Rasta brother that used to live in the woods. He come down. He said he missed the jungle. Because when he was in the jungle, he felt like a person. He said he had pride in himself. He felt dignified. He felt like a king. But he said now that he's living among the people, they have no respect for him. They treat him as nothing. He said, I wouldn't go back in the woods because I understand some things. But he said, I miss it. Sometimes we treat our people badly in society. We forget these people we're speaking about. You know, we say they're giving them handout. People that needs assistance, but we demonize them. And as a result of them, people have to have dignity. Even when people in prison, in death row, they encourage them to have faith and believe and to be positive and improve yourself and read and educate yourself. And they give them reward for good behavior. We must do that in our society. We have young people in our society that perhaps feel so dejected because of the utterances of others. Caller, welcome.
Yeah, me again, you know.
Yes, my brother.
I want to commend the Honorable Delma Thomas for a promise made and kept in the Crab Street area. Over 600 feet of road was done, concreted over the last 2 days, you understand? And I want to commend her for that. Over 90% of that promises made by that lady was kept, you understand? And the constituency could bear witness to that. Big up to that lady. And while I'm on that, boy, I want to send out my condolences again to the Batty's family. Mr. Michael Batty lost his daughter, and I think he would be buried sometime tomorrow. He's a young girl that was very dear to me. She used to take me up on my job and drop me home and so on, you know, and going out of his way to do that. She was a lovely young lady, you understand? And once again, I want to send out my condolences to the Batty's family and also to the Thomas family. Dylan Thomas, the son of Mrs. Thelma Thomas, they were very close. I think they maybe were lovers. So I want them to stay strong, you know, and that is the way death treats us, you know. So let us mourn and then, you know, rejoice. Have a good evening again.
Yes, my brother, and also I join with you in expressing my sympathy to my brother, Michael Baptiste, and his family. You know, it's really important for us. Yes, politicians, sometimes the very nature of our politics, you have to have some maturity in the politics and know there are some things that are achievable and some things are not. Perhaps the government has a philosophy, as a position, has placed immense emphasis on the people in the lower socioeconomic strata. Now, this is important to understand. If your income bracket is less than $3,000 a month, most likely that you are not paying any tax. And government seems to think that if you own in less than $3,000 a month, that is a minimum in which they believe one should have to live a decent life in the country. So government seems to be putting a lot of emphasis on people in this group. You could see the programs that come about targeting people in this group. For instance, like the Imani. And I know this program have gotten a lot of licks. It's a program I like because it is the best program, I describe it, the best program that have been instituted in the last 100 years in Grenada to address the challenges of competitiveness on the job market for our young people. They would tell you on a number of occasions, one of the challenges we have of high unemployment is inadequate defense against natural disasters and an ineffective education system that brings about people that is unprepared for the workforce. This is what the international community would tell you, that one of the principal contributing factors to poverty and unemployment in Grenada. If our workers, if our people, if our young people are better prepared for the job market, then our poverty level would improve significantly. The answer is in the schoolhouse. The answer is with our young people. 70% of our young people exit secondary school or school, whether primary or secondary, without the basic qualification. And that is a serious hindrance, a serious setback, a deterrent for them to find jobs on the job market. So here you have an Imani program set up that takes in about 3,000 of them, that give them some money, that gives them an opportunity to further their education, that help them to maintain a life with dignity, help them to get work experience, and to constantly challenge them to improve their education. While people in these things, they see others getting scholarship to go and study in SGU, National College, go to China and other countries, and this is a strong motivator. I know some people have serious issues with it, but we also have the enemies of progress in our country. So I always encourage people to ask the question, what is the option you have? You're against a program that help over 3,000 people that come from the lower socio-economic strata. What is the option you have? What is the alternative you have? What advice do you give? And I think that's the way we should go about things. It is not about criticizing carte blanche, but coming up with ideas and solutions. We should serve as a think tank to come up with solutions to solve our problems, rather than just blanketly criticizing everything. We are not perfect people. We do not have perfect programs. All of them have faults, but we could strengthen them if we serve as a think tank in our country, you know. And you could give us a call. The number to call is 442-0175. Somebody saying every month we pay in union dues, and when we retire, we get nothing after all these years. This may not necessarily be true. Unions are not rich organizations, and unions' principal, main source, or all the income they have is some workers paying the dues. Unions either rent their office or they have their own building structure. And as such, that have to be maintained. Unions would have a staff, maybe an executive secretary, secretary's hours, stationery and papers, telephone and internet, water bill. So they need money to operate the office. Some unions would negotiate so that certain workplaces, certain business that you go and buy from, you may get small discounts. So it is not really fair to say that you're paying union and when you retire, you get nothing. Union represent you and try to seek your interests. That's why I always say union is not responsible for productivity. Unions seek the interests of their members. Yes, Scholar, punch.
Yeah, you know, politicians take things personal if you criticize them constructively. This election I will be criticizing constructively and commend the politicians on both sides. And here I am unafraid to do it because I am talking about Greater Carriacou Pitty-Matic. I love this piece of rock, and I have no fear. I am unafraid of it. No fear, favor, ill will on both sides. This election I'll be pretty active, asking the politicians to let us deal with the issues. Have a nice day, sir.
Yes, my brother, yes. It is important. You see, sometimes it is politicians in a dilemma. They're going outside there and they want to get votes. And they're trying to woo people. And while they might have a criticism, they don't like too much public criticism that they believe could cause them to lose vote. I always say that only about 9 or 10% of the people you encounter would criticize you. Most of them wouldn't agree with you, but they walk away quietly. So sometimes we must show more appreciation or listen to those who criticize us. But if you follow radio personalities or radio stations, they tend not to harbor much anyone who take issues with them. Some radio station cutting you off. They don't tolerate you at all. So sometimes politicians have to learn to be open. More mature they are, more tolerant you see they are to negative criticism. But we have to go on with the issue. That is why on my program, I encourage people to we provoke discussion. We cannot do justice to any topic, but when something comes about, we could speak about it, you know? Because we are highly politicized people. Difficult. Sometimes people hear your voice and they give you a color. If you pop up in somebody's meeting, it means that you're associated with them. Even in the public service. And some public officers are asked to walk the straight and narrow and don't openly flaunt a political party. And it's difficult. Let's suppose you are a high position in the public service, but you're an active supporter of a political party. You're flaunting political parties with glee. When you come back in the office, that minister, that person might be difficult to work with you. They may not want something slip because they fear you will bring it in the enemy camp. And according to how sensitive your job is, it could jeopardize or sabotage or appear to sabotage that politician. So that is why some public officers needs to be professionals. So you could function irrespective of the political party. And it's a challenge. You know, it's a challenge because we are very politicized people. And then we have to encourage conversation without bitterness and anger. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my brother.
I'm punching quickly again.
Go right ahead.
I want to say, in our politics, if you're not careful, I don't like the word about we win already. I don't use that word. What I say, I'm confident we're going to win again. I am satisfied that we're going to, but to say we win already because you could lose an election on election day if you just be careless and you don't have machinery in place. A lot of people don't realize that. And another thing is, Brother Pierre, some politicians keep away. because they feel when they go to people, home or villages, people are going to ask them for things which is not possible at the time. But you know how important it is to touch base. I remember my deceased mother, when I come, she said, you know who passed by me today? Mr. You know, she mentioned the candidate. She happy just for that. He didn't give her anything, but just pass and ask her, you all right? You all right? This is why today, in our politics in Grenada, we hear people saying, I'm waiting for them. They don't know me now, but when the election comes, they're going to pass. Always pass and say hi. You're not going to have money to give them, but your presence, they believe, they feel considered, they feel appreciated. My parliamentary, people tell me, Mr. Bosun passed by me today. You know. He passed and asked me how things going. They feel good, they feel important. The parliamentary report, he was in my yard, he was in my house. He come and talk to me in my kitchen. This is why you could not beat Wellington Friday. They used to say that politician with the most, with the most shameless politician. Whether you vex him or he pass and tap you, he pass in your house, he offer you a drink or something. In 1971, Sir Eric Matthew Gary introduced that simple thing we watch in the rum shop politics. He used to say, when we go to Progress House in meeting, he said, Mr. Belenji, hold that. When the guys come, give them a little refreshment. Garvey, hold that. Or if Mr. Philip, hold that. When the boys pass. And this thing cannot die.
So it's Uncle Gary that started rum shop politics?
He introduced rum shop politics in 1971. And that's still reigning, which I know some political activists is hiding from.
But some politicians, in all fairness, they say they're not getting involved in rum shop politics.
It play a role. It play a role. Uncle Gary introduced it, and that stayed there.
But in the rum shop, you have a lot of discussion. Prior to that, you have a lot of the farmers. I think some people don't understand that they sell toilet paper, corned beef and sardine, batteries, bulbs, pins and needles inside the rum shop too.
Yes.
And they forget that the JP used to drink rum, so documents used to be made inside the rum shop too.
Very important.
So that was a medium for the village to discuss its issues. So Uncle Gary was correct.
Yeah, he started it. And that he encouraged it. Well, you're going to drink rum, but to give the people something, I say, you get, and you, the politician, getting a lot of food for that in these places.
Well, we always have malt in the rum shop to buy for the ladies.
Yeah, that's right.
Cola and ting and orchard and nowadays the rum shop and them get good, you know. They have coffee, they have kettle, so you could get coffee. Because even during Lent, you're getting what people get when they fasting in the rum shop. Yes, my brother, thank you. Yeah. Yes, you can give us a call. The number to call is 442-0175. And my brother Lane Jane, London Jane. But some people try to embrace the politicians. I think sometimes politicians do run away because they're broken. Politics could make you broken. I know of a number of politicians. We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Francis.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
A pleasant afternoon to
Great,
you listening audience. Now, Francis, listen to this, and tell me where we would have been in Grenada today and where Grenada would have been. Because all of these initiatives has been grossly condemned by the alternative, so to speak. Listen, they condemned the Imani program. They condemn the social assistance program. They condemn health care. They condemn the incentive that was given to public servants. They condemn the Lagoon Road project, that where the savory is down there now. They condemn the cruise ship terminal. They condemn the bus terminal in St. George's. They condemn incentive to frontline workers. They condemn traffic wardens. They condemn environmental wardens. And to tell Francis, I want to ask you the question. If none of these initiatives would have materialized today, can you give me an idea as to where we would have been in Grenada? I thank you for the time.
An interesting one, but Color, nothing is wrong with a political party not supporting these things. It all depends on your philosophy. Now, if that political party's target group is not the people from the lower socioeconomic grouping. Yes, Color, welcome.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Welcome, good day.
Yes. And let me tell you something. We had a doctor residence in St. David. Yes, the doctor used to be right there, he have his house there. And the sea come in 2018. Well, they couldn't pay salary. They take the doctor residence and they sell it to pay the salary.
They sold the doctor's residence?
Yes. The doctor residence in St. David, they sell it, the government doctor used to be there in St. David. They sell it. And that doctor residence had cocoa, had nutmeg. I ain't telling you what they see, because I know. Because I go a doctor in St. David already, but those St. David, you know what doctor residence in St. David again? More than those doctors had their own home. Understand? But he had a doctor residence right by the Catholic Church in St. David. The doctor residence was before the Catholic Church, and then after the doctor residence is the Catholic Church. It's to tell you. So what they go, if they come in now, some of us better no makeup, we mind. They go sell us. Don't pay salary. You're laughing.
I don't feel they're going to sell people. No.
They can't come in. They can't come back in. No.
You don't want them to come back?
No.
Because you believe they're going to sell you?
They go sell me.
Yeah, we still have a number of property that we could sell. Yeah, we have lands, we have Nawasa. These things could be sold. So sometimes they don't resort to selling people, but they sell them what else could obtain money from. Or sometimes they grow the economy. You don't believe they were able to grow the economy?
No. I don't see who.
You don't think they could unite that much to grow the economy?
No, they can't unite, and they start to fight already.
Right,
they don't reach inside it yet. They start to fight already.
But sometimes they're practicing to unite.
They're practicing to unite?
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much for that
You're
call.
welcome, sister.
Yes,
God
thank you
bless
very
you.
much
Have
for
a
that call.
wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, I was saying sometimes it's the philosophy of the political party. And that's why it's so important to know what the philosophy is. Now, some political parties put a lot of emphasis on the grouping that come from the lower socioeconomic strata, the poorer people in the country. Yes, caller, welcome.
Francis, 1 second here, I know you.
Yeah.
Francis, let us not forget, during the time of the National Democratic Congress government in office, they would have sold over 13 properties, including the one Miss Jacobs just talked about in St. David's up there, the doctor's quarters. Over 13 properties to pay wages and salaries. Francis, if you have an estate of 100 acres, and ever so often you have to sell 15 acres just to pay wages and salaries and to keep people working on the estate. What I want to ask you, sooner or later within a 5-year period, I want to know what percentage of the estate you will end up with because as it has been proven that it was not a mechanism for progress. Thank you, sir.
Well, maybe you may not have much workers to pay if you sell out all the estates, obviously. But that's a serious challenge, and particularly now that we have this constitution pension debacle, that understand that governments need international assistance to sort out that. Because the kind of money you're dealing with because of technicality of the law could be mind-boggling. And I'm not worried about this government, you know. I'm worried about government in the future. Most of the union leaders now are not very strong. They seem to be more like to cry and complain. But you find a union leader that is an outstanding orator, and they could have politicians on their toes, and not necessarily in the best interest of the country. So that's why I believe that we have to have some international assistance to cipher out what is taking place. Because somebody that entered the public service last week, 40 years from now, they have to get the pension. So whatever changes or amendments you make might have to take effect for the next 40 years. So I want people to understand that. And the debt government have to pay attracts interest of about 6 to 7%. So imagine if you owe 2 billion in backlog or 1 billion or whatever quantum they determine. I have no clue. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
Okay, and how are you?
Great, man.
Right. Now, I understand that the government is engaging the committee that normally advise the advisory committee back again, and they are seeking international help, and I think that's a step forward, and they will be meeting with different organizations to chart the way forward in paying coming to a conclusion with the money owed to the
you have to raise your voice a little.
the money owed to the pensioners. Okay, so I think that's a good stepping stone, because I don't think government could fight that on their own, and I think the government have to take as much advice as they could get. So the government have started off on the right footing, in my opinion, to get full consultation with as much persons that could advise the government.
This is a constitutional matter. The government had to get assistance to help them understand the constitutional debacle.
Right.
Because tomorrow, even though you have any local agreement, it cannot supersede the constitution.
No, yeah.
So later on, they could bring it up again.
Right.
So the government have to get international assistance for them to understand the interpretation of the court, the impact, and the ability to pay where they will get the money.
So I think it's a good step, but you're hearing the union saying we want it. No.
Yes, the union correct. It's their money, they win the case, and they could say they want it now.
They could
And
say that,
if
but
they're strong enough,
saying you want it no, cannot bring it no.
if the union is strong enough, the union believes they could show down any government.
Well, yeah, you can make sure on the government, but you still didn't bring it no. And
When the next government come, they show them down again.
well,
And that is where you find the country deteriorate seriously.
I tell you why I'm making that statement. I heard a gentleman, very man that always in the air, always speaking, always that he has knowledge, blaming Mr. Cox, Minister Cox, for going to the rescue or going to find out the needs of the person's house for born in St. George's. And he's claiming that the person to go should have been Mr. Steele.
Somebody from the union that was doing that?
No. Somebody that is well known on the air.
Well, remember, you have a lot of political individuals on the air. So he must be seeking the interests of his political party.
Well, that man have said that he have on many occasions that he has not aligned to any political party.
It's not, remember what Christ say. It's not what people say, it's what they do. You're living in the country here. So even though a man say not aligned, But sometimes he wearing the clothes, he wearing the headgear.
I agree with you, because I cannot see what is wrong in Mr. Cox being a government minister, being living in the area, going to sympathize and to find out what is the needs of somebody house at born, and you are claiming it that it should be the parliamentary representative, and the gentleman is not the parliamentary representative. How does the parliamentary representative oversee any other person going and look or sympathizing? I would like to know that. How does the parliamentary representative, because he's the parliamentary representative, even though the parliamentary representative go, he still have to come back to the ministry, and Mr. Cox is the Ministry of Communication and Work. So to get anything from government, you have to go through that ministry.
Who's the parliamentary representative?
Mr. Steele.
Mr. Steele and Mr. Cox is one and the same person. All of them in the same political party, exactly. And the word on the ground is Mr. Cox replacing Mr. Steele.
Right.
So that is not the issue.
So I cannot see why somebody should be taking objection on that. Because Mr. Cox can go there in many different forms, and whether it goes as a minister, see that he's breaking rule or regulation. He doesn't prevent Mr. Steele from going, and he doesn't prevent Mr. Steele from sympathizing. He doesn't prevent the same gentleman from going to and rendering help if he could. So it's a lot of play up in this thing.
Well, we have to understand when individuals are making statements for mere political reasons. And sometimes they make statements because they just like to criticize everything that goes on in the country. You know, Mr. Steele and Mr. Cox, as far as are concerned, is one and the same person as a result of politics. Yes, caller, thank you. Yes, we have just a minute or two to go, so we could take the last caller and, you know, if we think. Generally, this is the political season. Everybody prepare for election. Election date is no surprise to nobody in Grenada. First time I see in my lifetime, people prepare for elections. So the Prime Minister is not surprising anybody again as a result of calling the date. What is happening more and more, all people that was in hibernation coming out now and put on the political colors. People who claim they were neutral, now you see they put on the green or the yellow. And that is understandable. The political heat is right. We have to continue to respect one another. We have to continue to realize that the democratic system provides basically a two-party state in Grenada, and their people are very politically conscious and very expressive. We can't be bitter. We can't full of hate. We have to respect one another. After we sit down and discuss the politics, we must be able to smile and travel in the same vehicle. We are one people. A lot of families, within families, you represent different political sides. So it's very important that we understand that, you know. And we want to thank you again for being with us today, particularly our callers on the radio and those who communicate with us on WhatsApp. Thank you very much.
In homage to those gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun, we vow to join hands and to focus on building